Well, good morning, everybody. It's the 6th of April, 2025. It's 10 minutes to 8 in the morning, and temperature is about -7. If you get out, I'm actually going into the woods here. Hopefully that I'll get a little bit of relief from any sort of breezes, but when the breeze hits you, it's much colder. So I think I'll be all right here in the forest. Very nice forest indeed. And as you see, we had snow. Can you see? Yes, you can. Okay, so let's get right on with the news here instead of the chatter. I'd like to start off with talking about, this deal in Ukraine, what's going on there. And I like to also mention very many times about, this ideology, as you guys know. I'm talking about that all the time. And I'll be mentioning it a little bit more in this video too. But this belief that they're going to somehow prevail over Russia. And you remember even Tulsi Gabbard, right after this thing started back in 2022, she said there's no way these people can do it, that it's absolutely madness for them to do that. And of course they were pushed on at that time by the Biden regime, so in other words the United States, and of course the UK. The UK has been involved in this the entire time as well. Normally they're partners in crime, the UK and the United States. And then you mix that with that ideology of the master race. We are the master race, the Ukrainians. And a lot of people, they don't know that that's how the Ukrainians think. They are actually indoctrinated to that. And I try to stress that on this channel, that a lot of them believe that they are the superior beings. And like even Zelensky himself has said, I don't know if he's meant that he actually was serious, but he said that Russians are not human beings, but they are a species. And then he's trying to basically allude to the fact that other people are human beings. And, in truth, he probably doesn't even believe that. If he believes the one side of their superiority, the Ukrainian bloodline and all that sort of stuff, it's the Banderites. The Banderites have been pushing that for a long time. And as you all know, that Stefan Banderas, he was alive the same time as old Adolf was, and he was very, very much in favor of massacring people that he thought was inferior. And Germany, their main goal, of course, was Lebensraum, and that's a fact. It's a fact, however, it's a fact by indications. And, in truth, nobody really knows. And you can talk to the greatest historians on German history, and unless they're just kind of projecting some kind of a theory, they don't know for a fact what the real goal of Adolf Hitler was. It's not like he was trying to master the world, but he said he wanted Lebensraum. He's admitted that. And of course he was thinking that Jews are inferior. And as you know, Zelensky's a Jew. And the people, and a lot of the top people in Ukraine are Jews. And it's very strange that their big supporters and the ones leading them on are ones that hate Jews. So a lot of these things are very, very strange, And then you look at, we'll get to Annalena Baerbock in a little bit here. But all of this stuff is ideology. And, if they're so superior, then why do they snap their own people up off the streets to go and die in the meat grinder? And they know exactly what they're doing, and they know that that's exactly the case. That's an undeniable fact. And what I was going to mention, one of the first things I wanted to mention is they had a video on, and it's strange somebody was able to tape this, and I think it might even be like 5 minutes long. And it shows that they're trying to mobilize some guy, and he looked like he was maybe 40, I don't know, 35 or 40 years old. I wasn't paying so much attention. He wasn't a real young guy. And but anyway, while they're trying to mobilize him, he died. So anyway, then they're trying to revive him, and they're trying to do CPR on him and things like that. And because his heart stopped, he was dead, and they're trying to bring him back to life, to send him to the front to die another time, to die in the meat grinder, in the Ukrainian meat grinder. It's just absolutely amazing that these people are like this. Gosh. So anyway, but there's been a lot of this footage lately as well, because it seems like they've stepped up their efforts to to snap up people to go and die for the ideology of Nazism on the front line. And as you see, a lot of these politicians in the East, Annalena Baerbock obviously is one of them, and Kaja Kallas is another one, Ursula von der Leyen. They're all over, and you even have them like in the United States, like Lindsey Graham, and he's obviously a Nazi. It's an undeniable fact he's a Nazi. He said, "Oh, and kill Russians." Remember when he said that? You saw him. Oh, it's a great thing because you're going out and killing Russians. And what is the Nazi ideology? And then, like I said on this channel before, and maybe other people have mentioned it as well, fascism, but it's not fascism. Fascism is a completely different thing. It's an economic system. So everybody's just throwing these words around, far right and far left and all this sort of thing. And I'll even mention a little bit about that too when you talk about the AfD and what happened to them. Well, not what happened to them. Some good news for them. Anyway, what happened in Germany here in the last days or so. But Ukraine also, this master race, I don't know, what would make you be somebody maybe better than other people? Maybe you would have to be more responsible. If maybe it's up to you. You can be stronger, you can be smarter, you can be more responsible, you can have a higher sense of honor, like they used to believe in the olden days, that the higher people had a more honor. And and somebody, was in my class, and I have to admit this, somebody was talking, and I won't say even, who in the class, whatever, but when you go, if you've been in like third world countries, or if you've been to places where people maybe are less educated, or maybe they grew up on the, what do you call it? I don't want to say the lower, but on the other side of the social scheme, and you see them, and they're fighting and they're arguing with each other, all that. And when you see people that are a little bit more cultured and educated, they don't really argue. They maybe make their point, and then they stop. And then, of course, they stop and see what happens without having big arguments or fist fights, things like that. But of course, a lot of that has changed anyway. You see big fist fights in parliaments, like in Ukraine. They had constant fights. And you had like Saakashvili and all these people throwing glasses of water in each other's faces and fist fights and things like that. So I don't know, or maybe it's just that if you consider yourself to be a superior person, you can at least control yourself a little bit better. And I was even noticing that when I worked in a prison, and you see a lot of these people, and they seem perfectly fine to you when you're talking to them, but they've murdered people and maybe even raped and things like that. And I kind of noticed that the difference between these people and those people that are not going to prison, and maybe probably won't go to prison, are that they can control themselves a lot better. And so you can see that self-control makes you actually you might say a little bit better person. And then you have to have a lot better thinking capacity as well. And you look at these Ukrainians, knowing they have nothing close to what Russia has, and then yet they go to they make a war against Russia. They provoke Russia. They start killing those people. They sign a deal like the Minsk Accords, and then nevertheless, they keep disobeying it. And it's just like these ceasefires, and they are now going out of their way. They're going out of their way to disobey the ceasefire. As a matter of fact, they're going beyond that, And it was just yesterday, and it was from 1 o'clock on the 4th of April to the 1 o'clock on the 5th of April yesterday, because I was looking at the time schemes right there. They violated, in that 24 hours, they violated the ceasefire just in that time period 14 times. And then they had all the times that they were violating before that time. And then you look at, like, Russia was complaining. I don't even know if they complain anymore, because it's worthless. They were complaining to the United Nations, and they were, of course, sending letters and messages to the United States. Ukraine keeps violating the ceasefire. They keep violating. The U.S. does nothing about it. The UN does nothing about it. And so what's the point? And you sit there and you start thinking, well, what is this? This sounds very familiar. And look at what happened before the Minsk Accords. They were violating it the whole time. They kept bombing. The Minsk Accords, they signed it. France and Germany co-signed it, and it was ratified by the United Nations. And yet Ukraine kept bombing and killing those people. And I think, what was it? Nearly 14,000 people, civilians, they killed by keep bombing it. Poroshenko, I think he was on the radio, I believe. I don't think it was on video. I'm not sure. But I at least heard a video or I mean, an audio part of it, and he's saying, those, and of course it was translated into English, but he's saying that these people in the Donbass, all these children, they'll spend their lives or their time in childhood hiding in the basement from the bombs, while our children's in West Ukraine, they will be going to school and then on to the university. And those people will always spend their educational lifetime hiding in the basements. And he thought that was pretty cool. And obviously, Angela Merkel and François Hollande, the leader of France at the time, they knew what was going on. They said absolutely nothing about it. The press, they stopped reporting it in the West. And and you see something similar going on right now? They're violating the ceasefire over and over and over again. But the only good part about this, or there's going to be an end, because this ceasefire is only for 30 days. And then, I'll tell you what, I don't know, if the peace is not met by that time, and it's actually pretty obvious that Vladimir Putin really does want to end this war. And Zelensky and their people, they want to keep on making provocations, and yet they say the complete opposite. They say that Russia is disobeying this. It's incredible. Look at this. We had some new leaves coming out. Oh, sorry, I bumped it. We had some new leaves coming out, and yet it's covered in frost now. I don't know. Will it make it? Will those leaves die? Well, it'll bloom again anyway. Oh, I got myself boxed in a bunch of bushes. Anyway, I wanted to show you guys that. Very nice. Winter wonderland, even though it's springtime. Officially spring in Belarus and Russia. What is it, 1st of April? Or was it 1st of March? Ooh. Anyway, let's see. November, December, wait. When is winter? January, February, December, January, February. I guess 1st of March. So here we are in spring, and and we have snow. Not a big deal. It's happened before. As a matter of fact, I was living in Oregon, and the year before I was living there, it snowed on the 4th of July. And that's in eastern Oregon, in the high desert. The same desert that's part of Nevada. And it snowed on the 4th of July. And of course you saw that they had a lot of snowfall in places like Morocco, Saudi Arabia. They had a lot of snow on the ground in Saudi Arabia not long ago. I think it was less than a month ago. But let's keep going with the news. Okay, what else? Some of the places that they were bombing, the energy infrastructure that has this ceasefire, is, what's the R? Bryansk, Volgograd, Kherson, Vonetsk, let's say Voronezh, Lipetsk, Lugansk, and even Smolensk. And Smolensk, wow. But obviously, when you hear places like Smolensk, it's obvious that they're using their Russian patsies to do that stuff. There are people that probably answer the call, and they get paid some money, and and they're bombing for Ukraine, and they're probably Russian citizens, because to send a drone all the way from Ukraine, maybe, I don't think they would be cutting over Belarus. People are saying, and I didn't hear it necessarily, but it might be very well true, that Lukashenko said if you start pulling crap like that with Belarus, it's going to be World War III. And for some odd reason, I don't even know why, that a lot of these nations around here, the Chihuahua states, Ukraine, all of them, they take Belarus seriously. They take Lukashenko seriously. I guess he's got a reputation. What he says he's going to do, he does. And for a large extent of the time, even Vladimir Putin does. But the way he talks, maybe they don't take him that seriously. But maybe it's it's maybe in favor of Lukashenko. He looks like a threatening guy, and so does Donald Trump. They just, maybe the expressions on their face or whatever, they look like, well, when they say something, you better watch out. But Trump, he always comes up with stuff that's too fanatic, and then he can't really back it up a lot of the time, and he kind of, I don't know. I think what Trump does is he comes out with a big fist, like with a full swing, and then he waits for somebody to duck a little bit, and then of course he starts dealing with them. That's maybe the art of his deal, is to come out you hit them hard, you hit them fast, and you hit them low. I think that was from a movie. I think it's called That's My Boy with Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. And it turns out the children were switched in the hospital. I don't know. And anyway, you have to watch the movie. I think that's the name. That's My Boy. Okay, hit them fast, you hit them hard, and you hit them low or something. Okay. Yeah, that's I'm kind of seeing this as in spite of this stuff about the U.S. aid being sort of cut off and the Voice of America, not broadcasting in a lot of places anymore. Apparently, there's still something going on. And I just had my theory here that there's still a lot of this control, and the deep state still controls the narrative. But another thing is Donald Trump. You would see that he's more in favor of the truth, but he doesn't say anything to Russia's complaints about Ukraine violating the ceasefire multiple times, 14 times in one friggin' day. It's because you remember what he said when Vladimir Putin made some sort of an insult to Zelensky, and then he got very upset, and I think he thinks that if he mentions, which is strange to me, mentions the fact that Ukraine is violating the ceasefire, that it will harm the peace process. I don't know. Maybe in the back channels they're screaming at the Ukraine. I have no idea. But then there's a theory that Zelensky doesn't control that much, that it's the Nazis that do it. A lot of people saying, oh, it's the British that controls everything. And, there might be a lot of validity to that. Zelensky is just like I said a lot of times, or he could be just like a front man. He's like Bono from U2. It's a beautiful day, don't let it get away. So maybe that's what it's all about. And he doesn't control much. I sometimes suspect that Budanov does. Budanov has given some kind of a interview to some people. To me, it didn't make any sense. A lot of these times when these guys, they come up and say stuff, they say a lot of words that doesn't mean anything, doesn't make any sense. So I don't know. I make more sense than they do, obviously. So sounds like a bunch of wind coming. Oh boy. Here in the trees in the far distance. Oh, starting to blow off some of the snow, if you guys can see that falling here. Okay. Let's see. Okay, what else in there? But obviously Ukraine and whoever is running the show, they mean this as a provocation, and they're trying to make Russia slip up. And then they're going to initiate their press, and then it's going to say, look, Russia violated. It's Russia. Russia's doing it all. See? We told you you can't trust them. They're bad guys. They're bad guys. And look at us, perfectly innocent. Ukraine, flowers, butterflies, sweet tea, apple pie. No, that's America. But anyway, they're trying to make themselves look like the good guys, and they use the press. And even Trump's, well, just think what if Russia does respond. Or even if they don't respond and you get a false flag. They're thinking, well, how do we do a false flag and make it look like Russia hit ours? Which region should it be? It has to be bad enough, like maybe Kharkiv, and make sure that half the city has no power or whatever. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe if people see this video and something like that happens, then I'll become a world star. Yeah. So, like Zelensky's coming out and saying, oh, Russia's violating it, and he doesn't have any evidence. You guys already know that. There's nothing. Yes. Oh, and remember that footage. This is interesting, too. Remember that footage? And I saw that. I don't know if you guys saw that. And Trump put it on his, I guess, Truth Social or something. And it shows a bunch of, apparently, in Yemen, Houthis. See, we don't know this stuff. So it's a bunch of Houthis. It's around in a circle. One guy, it's like an egg-shaped circle, and one guy is towards the head of one side of the circle. And and he said, these guys are not going to be bombing our ships anymore. And of course, these are probably people that don't bomb ships anyway. These are probably just sort of, well, it would have actually only been fighters, that are like anyhow, but it turns out that it's very, very, very probable that those were not Houthis in the first place. And Yemen said they weren't Houthis. These were just tribal people, and they were celebrating the ending of Ramadan, whatever they call this feast and all that. And then Trump said they're Houthis and bombed them and killed them all. So anyway, but Yemenites, these people, they have a different sort of attitude than a lot of us in the West. And they're very righteous and moralistic people. And I don't find these people evil at all, and I don't find these people as being terrorists. And I think these people are just trying to stand up for these people in Gaza that are, that Israel is massacring. And then these people said, well, they're acting like big brothers and say, well, we have to defend you. Nobody else is defending you. The United Nations isn't. And Russia can't. If Russia lifts a finger, then anyway. But these people, they can't either, but they're doing it. And now they're getting bombed to smithereens. And CENTCOM just put out, they are now bombing Yemen 24/7. Every hour of the day they're dropping bombs. Before they were just doing it at nighttime. And it's apparent, because they're using those B-2 bombers, that maybe a lot of those bombers, when they sent them to Diego Garcia, well, at least last I heard, there were 7 B-2 bomber planes there. And, and there's submarines and things, but they're in the area, even though it's not a Navy base, but they're building up this big force. And a lot of people still suspect it's going to be aimed against Iran because it's pretty obvious. Donald Trump will do anything for Israel, and a lot of presidents would do almost anything, but Donald Trump is, muscling up to the front and say, well, I'll do even more for Israel. You know how Trump is. He's what do they call it? A superlative type of guy. I do better and bigger and better and than everybody else. Look at these hands. Look at these beautiful hands. That sort of stuff. So anyway, it's very possible that there's going to be a big attack on Iran. But thus far, it's probable that they're using a lot of this firepower against Yemen at the moment. Maybe it's even just a run up to warm these guys up, to make these massive bombings on Iran. And along with this, I guess there's been some flights as well as some ships, and somebody is messing with the GPS. And this is in the Persian Gulf, I guess. And it looks like Iran is doing this, so they can mess with the GPS. And I guess they're at least being accused of that. First was reported by the UK, and making airplanes fly erratically. So they've been having to rely on different systems. And I think maybe if, and it's been known, Iran can do this. Remember when they took, the United States had a spy drone flying over Iran? Iran took control of that drone and landed it safely in Iran. And then they copied that drone so that they can, that's why they have much better drones now in Iran. They have very high quality drones because they took this technology from the American one. They reverse engineered it. And they make very good drones now. And of course they probably added that to a lot of other drone technology that they had. So Iran is not really anything to be, scoffing at. And I don't know. That could be some very big trouble. Okay. So, what else? Other news. If you guys thought that this woke ideology was ended in the United States with Donald Trump and then saying, oh, woke, we're woke no more. I think that's what he said. Woke no more. Well, apparently in Colorado even, middle of the United States, that's even where isn't that where they have that big bunker that's located inside of a mountain and, almost impenetrable by any kind of bunker buster fab bombs or whatever the deal is, or JDAMs, things that Russia even has, the bunker buster things, equivalents that the United States has, and but I don't know. And they said there's some kind of a big secret, huge, massive secret city underneath, I think Denver Airport, or whatever. I don't know. There seemed to have been some kind of evidence. You never know. You can get fooled very easy on programs and things like that, if there really is one or not. But I don't know. If you guys, I don't know. You'd have to probably go there to find out. They can make everything. They can make the earth look flat, people. So, bunch of ridiculous stuff. So I got to keep on going this way. Somebody got a big dog here. It's not even, oh, it is on a leash. Yes, okay. But, okay. What was I going to say? I want to get past this dog before I talk anymore. I don't want to get attacked here. Dobre utro. Nice looking dog. Okay. So, where was I at here? Oh, woke no more. Yeah, but oh, I was going to say something. I meant some other little comment as well. You know, like they had this, I've mentioned, I think maybe in a video or two before as well, but you know, in my days in the military, when I was working for the commander-in-chief and other high people in the U.S. military, and you know, met congressmen and presidents and things like that, I one time, was it once or maybe twice, had to drive. I don't even know if I'm supposed to talk about this, but it's near Ramstein, and it's a big huge bunker as well, and I can't remember how close I could get to it, but I saw it. Back in those days, you didn't have cell phones and cameras and stuff like that. You know, you had the cameras you had were big ones, you know, so you can't be just hanging them or bringing them around. I wouldn't have done it anyway. I was part of the military, but it's also inside of a big, huge rock, and you can drive trucks into it and everything, and it's a big complex, and yeah, it's a big command center for those days. It was designed, in fact, if there's ever a nuclear war with Russia, that I would, well, anyways, actually my office would actually be located, would be sent to that place instead, and we'd all be huddling in there as everybody's getting filled with radiation and all that kind of stuff. So that's, they have those in Germany and places like that. This is right near the border of France. So okay. And woke no more. Okay, so what I was going to say, how do I get to military hideouts? But in Colorado, if you misgender somebody, you know, and I guess there's this term, I didn't even know this term, misgender somebody. So you call some guy who wants to be a woman, you call him a man, and you can get into big trouble. For example, if you have children, you're married, and you say, oh, excuse me, sir, and they want to be called a woman, they could take your children from you. So that's against the law. It's a crime. It's called a crime. A crime to call somebody, you know, who wants to be called by a different gender. I mean, talk about a bunch of crap, you know. So, you know, how do you know? I don't know. Maybe if it's on camera, and maybe you get a chance to say, okay, I'm sorry, ma'am, you know, to Arnold Schwarzenegger, sorry, ma'am, or something like that. And maybe then you don't go to jail or get your children taken away from you and all kinds of stuff like that. What a bunch of friggin' idiots. I don't know. God. So, you know, and we talk about Trump. There's things I don't like about Trump. You know, you look at Trump, he's got like, it's like one side of his mouth is closed and he's talking out the other side. So he's talking about killing all these people. You gotta stop the killing in Ukraine. And the other side of his mouth that's closed is he's very much involved in the killing in the Middle East, you know, flooding Israel with all the massive bombs, anything they absolutely want, to drop it on innocent Palestinian people, to kill them in the tens of the thousands. And then he's bombing Yemen, and he's threatening Iran. I don't know. So, oh, we got to stop the killing. Well, then why do you, I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. And I've noticed a lot of other people that are commentators and all that. I was reading some things too. You know, and they didn't say it like I say it, that he's talking out of the other side of his mouth, but he seems to contradict himself, you know, that here he's against this killing and he's very much in favor of that killing over there, you know. So, yeah, blah, you know, whatever. Okay, and I was saying I'm going to talk about Baerbock, you know, and Germany's really screwed up anyway. She's also known as the dumbest foreign minister on planet Earth, you know, and, you know, there's a lot of evidence to prove that that's actually true. And, a lot of things about Baerbock makes you really wonder what happened there. A lot of these people, even Kamala Harris, how do these people get into these certain positions? And it's really strange. They take the stupidest and the most vicious women they can find on planet Earth and they put them in these high positions. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. And then you get somebody who's she's got a, you know, like Tulsi Gabbard or some of or Kristi Noem or something like that, some rational thinking women, and I don't know, they don't get as much coverage for some reason. So Anyway, Annalena Baerbock said no Russian or Belarusian delegation members will be. Probably it's at the Normandy. I don't know what this is going to be. Some big commemoration thing of the end of World War II, and they're not allowed there. And she said they will be escorted. They will be taken away if they ever show up. Probably Belarusian people or Russians can go, and they'll of course be looked at sideways and given sneers and things like that because you're evil, because you're a species, things like that. Well, let me tell you, Belarusian people, that if you watch this, because I know there's people in Belarus that watch this. So what do you think? What do you think when they're telling that the Belarusians too? At the snap of the finger, they can say you're a species. You're not even a human being, and we got to make sure that we kill you. You know. And as you remember, the Banderites back in World War II, they made a big joy of killing the Belarusian people, and they wiped out the country that lost the largest percentage of their people in World War II were the Belarusians. And Belarus is only now opening up that it was more than 30%, of their people were wiped off the face of the earth at that time. More than Russians, more than Germans, more than anybody, more than Polish people. They lost the largest percentage of their people was the Belarusian people. And entire villages massacred. Over 200 villages that they just completely wiped off the face of the earth. Yeah, they would put people in the biggest buildings that they could find, wrap chains around them, douse them with gasoline, and burn everybody alive. And they had people positioned around the building that if anybody, if the walls were burning out and people were actually escaping, that they were to shoot them. And that's exactly what they did. And it happened multiple times. There's even been movies about stuff like that. But that's how it is. Okay. What was it? Maria Zakharova, she was saying how it shows that Annalena Baerbock is a Nazi. It doesn't matter that her grandfather was a Nazi, but you could say Ursula von der Leyen's ancestors were Nazis, Kaya Kallas's. I mean, a lot of these people, they had Nazi backgrounds. It doesn't mean that they have to be Nazis. There's a lot of people that had Nazis in their background, and maybe they're fighting against Nazism today. So that doesn't really mean anything. I think that's even in the Bible. Don't blame the children for the mistakes of their parents. But what else here? The AfD, that's what I was going to mention too. The Alternative for Deutschland, Alice Weidel, apparently now the polls are showing that they are equal and slightly more popular than the CDU, CSU parties, which are going to take control of Germany very, very soon, which is very strange. It hasn't happened yet. But anyway, they supposedly won the election, but the more popular party apparently now is the AfD. So that, I guess, that puts them in line to like what happened with Kalin Georgescu, or in Austria, or Marine Le Pen, or all of these people. So if you do not hate Russia and you're popular, you become very popular, we're going to get rid of you. The prerequisite, you will not be allowed unless you hate Russia. Those that look at Russians as equals are not allowed. And then can you tell me that Nazism is not alive and well in Europe? I mean, incredible. It's like it's becoming the main ideology in Europe now is Nazism. It's really incredible. I mean, how can you deny that? What is a Nazi? A Nazi, they say that they are a master race. It's just like looking what happened happens in Israel. They are God's chosen people. Or what did Obama say? We are the exceptional people. Biden tried something too, and I can't remember what his one was, but it didn't work. It's weird. They talk about Trump being far right and Nazi this and that, but he's never said anything like that. He just says make America great again. He didn't say we are the master race or the smarter people. He doesn't say that. Yes, incredible. And Alice Weidel, she's a Nazi, because they want to have regulated immigration. And that is it. And it's not very, very difficult. It's a matter of fact, incredibly easy, just like I've said right now. It's incredibly easy to show you that those that are accusing the AfD of being Nazis, they themselves are the Nazis. That's called projection. Look at the new guy who's going to be in charge of Germany. He says we have to really up the pressure on Russia, and we have to give all of our most destructive bombs to Ukraine, which are Nazis, by the way, I mean, run by Nazis. So it's like, but yet they're not the Nazis. And Alice Weidel, who does not want to have this war, doesn't want to be at war, she's a Nazi. That doesn't make any sense. But you know, nothing makes any sense anymore. You know, so if you say you're a woman, you're a woman. Boy, what a great world. I guess that's freedom of everything. You know, taking it to the limit. Okay, what else we got here? Gosh, my nose is running again. Anyway. And then they say democracy, you know? Well, what about democracy? So the people, when the people like somebody that what we might call the deep state that doesn't like, then we have to get rid of them. And you have to take who we tell you to take, and that's democracy. Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. Sun coming through. Woo! Getting hit by ice falling from the trees here. I better get out of here. Okay. Yes, what else we got here? I talked all about this stuff. Anyway, well, Baerbock too. Let me say that about Baerbock as well. She has already said she doesn't care what the German people think. So it makes you wonder. I think Baerbock is it sounds like she's like a deep state, you know? And she very might be. She's obviously a darling of the deep state. And, you know, she'll do everything that they sell her to do. You know, she was actually in the WEF. Remember that? And like I mentioned the other day, Klaus Schwab is out again, and he says he's going to penetrate the cabinets. And you will own nothing and be happy. He said the same thing. He just said the same thing a day or two ago. We will have a future where you will own nothing and everything will be shared. Sharing is caring. Sharing is nice. He didn't say that, but he said that that it's going to be sharing. What did he say before? Borrowing or renting? It's not sharing. You're gonna be renting. In other words, they're gonna be making endless amounts of money. For example, say you want an iPhone, and right now, you know, maybe Donald Trump's helping them out. They say an iPhone is now $3,500 in the United States because of Trump's tariffs. So I don't know about these tariffs, but you know, but don't worry, because you'll own nothing and be happy is on its way. And when that happens, you know, you'll get the iPhone and you will only have to pay $6 a week for your iPhone. But when you break it, you have to pay for it, buddy. And by that time, the price of the iPhone will be $7,000. So you break it, you pay for it. And yeah, and then since it's going to be shared and 100 people have already had that iPhone and thrown it around, the screen is broken, it's all got a bunch of gummy stuff. You don't know what the heck or where they put that iPhone, you know. Some of them are pretty small and they can fit into very tight places. And yeah, and you don't know where it's been, and you got it in your hand now. So isn't that great? Because it's sharing. Yes. Okay, and you guys saw that there's some, well, maybe you didn't see it. I don't know, you don't get a lot of things over there in the West, but Israel, they shot and killed 4 medics in Palestine. They're doing this stuff all the time anyway. They're killing doctors. They have graves near hospitals, you know, which nobody even knew about. You know, they find these mass graves of a whole bunch of bodies and find a lot of them were doctors. So they just massacred people in hospitals. Oh no, but they're the most moral army in the world. Don't you know that? So anyway, they're doing that, and they killed these 4 medics, and they didn't know, but I think one of these Israelis, apparently, that were behind the cars, somebody got the video of them trailing these, well, anyway, let me say it a different way. The Israelis said, oh, they were very suspicious. They were traveling with no lights on. So, you know, like they said they were Hamas. You know, everybody is Hamas that they kill. Oh, they must have been Hamas. Or maybe the Russians. But anyway, they said it was Hamas. And so and then there was one guy, you know, when they stopped and he was out and he had lit, you know, he had all the things. Their lights were on, everything. It was all lit up. And Israel lied and said, no, they were traveling dark. And then they killed them all. They just killed them all right there on the spot. no provocations, no guns. They just killed them all. And it turns out that even Israel now said, oh, well, first they said, oh yes, it will be investigated. And maybe they had a beef against whoever these people were for some odd reason. So anyway, they found out that that it was done in error. But of course, these people, nothing is going to happen to those people that killed them. I know that at least, maybe it was a couple of years ago, they said never in all of the history of Israel has ever an Israeli has never been put into jail and never been punished for ever killing a Palestinian. So none of them have ever. So you could just go with impunity and go around killing Palestinians if you're an Israeli, Jew or something, and nothing will ever happen to you, apparently. So nothing's going to happen to those people either. You know, they even had the footage, remember, that they were anally raping prisoners, you know, like with big baseball bats and things up their rear end, things like that. Nothing ever happened to those people either. Oh no, but they're the most moral army and the most moral people. They're God's chosen people. For God's sake, how can you ever say that about the Israelis? So, and of course, all those bad people protesting out there and that need to be locked up because they're protesting against Israel. They're anti-Semites. They're anti-Semites. You know, I mean, what's killing a couple tens of thousands of people, innocent people? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That's our right, isn't it? That's our land. God gave it to us. Didn't you read? Didn't you see what God said? God gave us that land. I mean, isn't it? I mean, everybody knows that. Anyway, terrible, terrible stuff here. But anyway, Israel's told the truth, so that's a first. Even though nothing's going to happen about that. Okay. Actually, that's it. I already talked about this other stuff, them blocking the GPS, things like that. So I don't know. Is there going to be a war with Iran? I have no idea. Anyhow, and like I said, this is Sunday, and it's kind of a relaxed day, and I'm in a zone area here that I'm guessing, and I'm thinking maybe this is true, that there's probably no sort of towers or something. So it's probably going to take forever to upload this video, but I don't need it. I don't go to class today. I don't need the cell phone so badly, so that's not going to be so bad. But it's actually quite beautiful. It's probably far more beautiful than what you guys can possibly see on this cell phone photograph here. But I don't know. It's sad to leave. I love forests. Okay. Anyways, people, thanks for joining me. Oh, somebody made a comment, and they were thinking I was confused about these bombs. You know, and I'm not talking about that I know anything really about these bombs, that just that they have a lot of destructive power. And I do remember the J Dam. He made a comment about that, but I wasn't saying that. I didn't say that they're using these Moabs and Fab 3000s all the time or whatever, but they have used them. And so even on occasions, these are very destructive bombs. They're the most destructive bombs that they have. Minus being a nuclear bomb, maybe even the Orishnik, I don't know, but apparently these Orishnik are maybe not, they're not like bombs, I'm just guessing, they're kinetic energy bombs, and they're not made for long or large areas, and they don't have any radiation, but they have a pinpoint accuracy, and they are hypersonic and very, very fast bombs, and that makes them very destructive. And when they do hit an area, they disintegrate everything into powder. So that is, I guess, the use of those. And a lot of time you find out, you would think that if they have a lot of these Orishnik bombs, that it's actually better than the nuclear bombs. There's no doubt about it. And even if they turn everything into powder, but it's like I said, it doesn't leave off any radiation, like nuclear bombs do. So everything is poisoned for many hundreds of years after a nuclear bomb goes off, and it goes into the atmosphere, floats around, and it goes hundreds of miles away. That's radioactive. Even it's just these depleted uranium that the United States made, and I think maybe Russia even has some of those. So they decided, they're going to make a few too. And of course, Ukraine has been using them. They've been using chemical weapons and lots of things, and nasty, nasty people. So as they're losing this conflict, who knows, maybe when it comes close to just before the end of this 30-day deadline, which they are violating multiple times on a daily basis, who knows what they're going to do for their, and there might even be a false flag like I suggested. So we'll see what's happening with Ukraine. Nasty people, a lot of really nasty people. The Israelis, the government, and the Ukrainian government. These are some of the nastiest people, you know. I don't even see why Trump has anything to do with them. And anyway, unfortunately, we're stuck, and hopefully Netanyahu and maybe people just like him, maybe they'll hopefully disappear at some point in time. I'm not going to make any excuses. I tell you what, I back the Houthis. I back the Houthis before I back what the United States is doing to them or the Israelis. So I wish that the Houthis have great success, and I wish them that any destruction against them is going to stop very soon. So that's all I want to put out today. Like I said, enjoy the rest of your weekend. It's Sunday, and I'll see you guys on the next one. So bye-bye.